Hey guys, it's Alex and I'm back for another video. First of all though, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the positive response that I got to last week's food video. I personally had a lot of fun taking you guys through my small kitchen and just talking about what it's like to miss food when you're far away from home. And I was really happy to see that you guys related to that content as well. I think it's one of the more laid back, nicer conversations to have when it comes to thinking about being an international student. But your willingness to engage with me on these topics and to share your reactions means a lot, and it inspires me to keep making content like this. So thank you guys. Today, we're going to be jumping back into more practical tips for being an international student in the US, particularly about how you can pay for your graduate school education, assuming you're about to start some kind of master's degree program in the United States. So if that sounds relatable to you, then I would love to have you keep watching this video until the end, as well as to have you share your thoughts. Now, the reason I picked this topic for today is because, first of all, it's grad school season, and I've actually been helping a few of my friends with their grad school applications recently, so I know that there are still people out there who are either still waiting to hear back from school or already have an offer or two on hand. Getting accepted to graduate school is such a rewarding feeling after you've worked so hard on your application, but as I know firsthand, there are still new questions that can arise even after getting accepted, like how to pay for all of this. I know that everybody has different financial situations and concerns, so I want to emphasize that the tips I'm going to be providing in this video are strongly based on my personal experience of when I got accepted to grad school this time last year, as well as what I wish I had known much earlier in the process myself. I'm going to be sharing the different options that you can pursue if you're trying to avoid debt as much as possible in paying for your graduate school education, just so that you know what all the possibilities are. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had already posted a similar video to this where I discussed various tips to help you decide on which grad school you should choose, assuming you've gotten multiple acceptance offers. But I noticed that in that video, I kind of went on and on about financial advice, so I decided that this topic needed its own video. And I'm hoping that by sharing this video, I can help you guys have a more organized approach to thinking about paying for grad school. So if you guys are ready, let's jump right in. First of all, guys, as always, I encourage you to talk to your family to see if they can help pay for your education in any way, even if it's just a portion, even if it's just your textbooks, or to help a little bit with living expenses. Any help counts, and I encourage you to take advantage of that if you have that opportunity. That being said, I know that's not a possibility for everyone, so that's actually not my first official tip in this video. It's just something that I want you guys to keep in mind going into this conversation. The first official way that you can consider paying for grad school in the US is actually to think about scholarships. When you got accepted to your grad school program, chances are your offer came with some kind of merit scholarship to accompany it. And that's actually a more common thing than you may realize when it comes to graduate school acceptance in the US. This time last year, when I got accepted to the 4 schools that I had applied to, I was very, very surprised to see that each one of them came with some kind of merit scholarship to accompany the offer. Now, that being said, none of them were actually enough to cover all of my expenses. So what I really want you guys to think about with the existing scholarships that you have, assuming you have them, is to learn to negotiate your scholarships. Really, this is not an uncommon practice. You're not being greedy, you're not being arrogant or entitled. You are simply having a conversation, a very normal conversation with your school about why you think they should increase your scholarship, which happens more often than you think it does. What you can do is to just begin a conversation with the person that you've been corresponding with in the admissions office until now. So it could be the admissions officer that's been assigned to you. It could even be the financial representative in the admissions office that you've been directed to. Either way, just getting that conversation started is really going to help. Simply write an email to the person that you've decided is the most appropriate to have this conversation with, asking if it is possible to have them increase your scholarship based on your credentials or any achievements you've had in your undergraduate studies. Don't be afraid to brag about your accomplishments so that they can have a clearer picture about why they should spend their department's budget on you. If it's a merit scholarship that you're negotiating, try to stay away from saying that you need them to increase the scholarship because you're having financial hardship. Unless that's true, then you can definitely add that to the email, but you really want the focus of negotiating a merit scholarship to be on your accomplishments, on your grades. It can be anything that you think you're proud of or that demonstrates your professional capabilities in that field that you've gotten accepted to. So for example, I had gotten accepted to a journalism program and I really wanted them to increase the merit scholarship that came with my acceptance offer. I had never had any formal journalistic experience before grad school, A lot of my experience was in digital content marketing, copywriting, so I really emphasized those parts. I said, hey, I've been working full-time for a year in copywriting, which means that I not only know how to write really well, but I'm in touch with the most recent industry practices when it comes to professional writing. And I said a few other things, but that's just one way that you can really talk about why you deserve more money. The reason why I'm placing an emphasis on merit scholarships is because aid-based or need-based scholarships are generally harder to find for international students in the US. So if you do have questions about that, definitely feel free to leave a comment, but I'm going to be focusing more on merit scholarships just because that's what's more widespread when it comes to grad school in the US. The other thing you really have to consider when you're negotiating your scholarship is to give them a specific amount that you want. Now, hand in hand with that, you always want to express gratitude for the amount that you've already been given so that your request doesn't come off as arrogant or needy, but rather very professional, very mature. You're basically saying, I know that you've given me this amount already and I'm so grateful for that, but I do want to begin a conversation to talk about why I deserve more. And with that, if you can come at them with a specific number of what you're looking for, that gets you where you want to be much quicker than if you just kind of say that you want some increase in your scholarship. These people are looking to save their budgets as much as possible. So if you don't give them a specific amount, they're not going to go out of their way to calculate what you need. So for example, you can say, Dear Melody, I'm writing to discuss the possibility of negotiating my merit scholarship. While I am incredibly grateful to have received $10,000 to help me cover my tuition expenses, I'm reaching out to ask if it is possible to increase my merit scholarship by $7,500, as this is the remaining amount that I need to cover blah, 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 blah. And then you go into why you believe that you have the accomplishments that entitle you to this increase. Now, if your school doesn't have any merit scholarships for you to apply for, then there are still external resources that you can use to find scholarships that other organizations outside of your school provide. Scholly is an incredible resource that I discovered this time last year that helped me look for all kinds of scholarships that I qualified for as an international student. Other scholarship resources that are worth checking out are Education USA and Study in the USA, all of which I'll link in my description below, so be sure to check those out at the end of this video. Now, very similar to merit-based scholarships, fellowships are the second way that you can consider paying for your graduate school education in the US. Fellowships are, very generally speaking, awards that you can earn based on your academic qualifications. Sometimes they're given to you along with your acceptance offer, like a merit-based scholarship. Sometimes you have to ask for one or apply for one separately, either before or after you've gotten accepted by the school. The availability of fellowships can differ by the school you're attending as well as by the program you got accepted to. For example, I had gotten accepted to master's degree programs in journalism, and I found that it was a lot harder for me to find fellowships than it was to find scholarships that I qualified for. That being said, I had a friend who was exactly in the same position as me. We were in the same year in college and both only had 1 year of working experience before grad school, and she managed to secure a fellowship after she had already gotten accepted by the school, simply because she asked if the school had any more financial resources to help her make her grad school experience possible. So like I was saying earlier, sometimes you just gotta ask and start that conversation, because schools don't always put it out there that they have fellowship opportunities for you, or they don't necessarily do a good job advertising. So definitely do some digging and ask around if you wanna know what's available to you. If your school doesn't offer fellowships or you just don't qualify for the ones that are available, then you can definitely look to outside organizations that provide fellowships, just like you can with scholarships. And as I mentioned in my previous video, ProFellow is a great resource for looking for fellowships, and I'm going to put that link in the description below. Even though I didn't end up securing a fellowship, they were the most useful database for finding fellowships. I was able to search by the academic field, so I could type in journalism, communications, and kind of filter the available fellowships in their database by my studies. I could also put it in by my nationality, so I put my citizenship in there. So if you're interested in looking for a fellowship, that's the resource I would recommend. But if you guys know of any other great resources for finding fellowships for international students, please let us know in the comments below. On to the third way that you can consider paying for your US graduate education, assistantships. In my experience, assistantships can be notoriously under-advertised by the university. So again, you have to do some digging if you want to find out what your school offers. Essentially, it's an opportunity for you to work part-time for the university in some kind of research or teaching or administrative capacity. So you can be a research assistant to help a professor with their lab work or with any kind of project that they're working on for their careers. You could be a teaching assistant to help teach some undergraduate classes, or you can help in some administrative of way for the school. For example, I work as a career counseling assistant for my school's career services. So I help review resumes, cover letters, things like that. And I learned about this position not because it came with my offer, but because I learned that assistantships were a thing by watching a video just like this time last year that another student had posted. This is why I love sharing student stories, because we exchange so many resources. So I went ahead, did the research, found this job opening at my school, or this assistantship opening, and I went ahead and applied. But I do have friends in my program who got assistantships as part of their acceptance offer. So it can happen either way. Assistantships aren't enough to cover your tuition. In some cases they can be, but in most cases, assistantships can help cover with day-to-day costs, with your rent maybe, with your transportation costs, with your groceries. And even though that might not seem like it's knocking off a huge chunk of your tuition, it's still a huge cost that's going to arise inevitably. The other thing you want to keep your eyes out for when you're applying for an assistantship is to see whether the position comes with any kind of tuition credit reimbursement. So some positions, depending on how much they're contributing to the school's work, come with tuition credit refunds. So a lot of assistantships at my school that offered this type of credit refund were worth 2 credits. So assuming that each credit is worth $1,000, having 2 credits taken off of my tuition bill means that I get to save $2,000 simply because I found a way for me to work for the school. Essentially, the school is saying, because you're working for us, we're going to sponsor this amount of money of your education. Yes, $1,000 or $2,000 might not seem like a lot when your bill is $50,000, but again, anything helps. So if you can find an assistantship with that kind of refund, go for that. But if you can't, I still encourage you to apply for any assistantship that's available. Moving on to the 4th way that you can consider paying for your graduate school studies is to see if your employer can help pay for any of it. So if you're currently working a full-time job, a lot of corporate jobs and even startups offer some kind of tuition reimbursement package. Sometimes they'll say, if you've worked for this company for an X amount of time, then we can consider giving you an X amount of money to help pay for your graduate education, assuming that the education is going to help advance you in that field that you're already in. If you can afford to, you can also consider deferring graduate school by a year or so and taking the time to work for a company that offers this kind of reimbursement for school. I know that's not an easy go-getter approach to funding your graduate school education, but it is a possibility that you might not have considered if you're in a similar situation to this. I also want to acknowledge that I know it's not really easy to find a full-time job right now, especially during this pandemic, so don't sweat it. I didn't do this approach, obviously. I did not have this option available to me, but it is something that I wanted to put out there in case it's something that you are able to do and haven't thought about before. Because I didn't go through this process myself, I don't have too much to say from personal experience, but if you have, or you know somebody who has gone through this path, then please leave a comment below. Moving on to the 5th and final tip that I have for finding ways to fund your graduate education in the US, please look to your home country to see if there are any local resources to help send you abroad to the US. Now, before I go into how I turned to my home country for resources, I want to let you guys know how I ended up paying for graduate school. First of all, I got a merit scholarship as part of my acceptance, and I negotiated that scholarship to make sure that I was getting the highest possible amount from the school. That managed to cover about 50% of my tuition, but that still clearly was not enough. So the next thing I did was I applied for an assistantship that helped cover a significant amount of my living costs, day-to-day costs. And then after exhausting all of my debt-free options to fund my education, I came to terms with the fact that I needed a loan. This was my personal situation, but I did research on resources back home, and I was surprised to find out that there was actually one bank that not only provided loans to send students overseas, but also had a partnership with my specific university. This was a huge problem solver for me because as an international student who needed a loan, you'd be surprised by how few options there are in the US to help fund your education. It's completely different from undergraduate school. I'm going to be making a separate video on that, so if you're interested in thinking about loans as an international student going to grad school, then make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when that video comes out. But because of this problem, I was so relieved to find out that there was a loan possible in my country back home for me to take advantage of that I qualified for, and it helped seal the deal. It was the final step I needed to make my graduate school education possible. I know this video is supposed to be talking about debt-free options to fund your graduate school education in the US, but hear me out. All I'm trying to say is check your home country because you just never know what opportunities there are. Check different banks' websites, check nonprofit organizations, foundations, check private organizations. Who knows what scholarships, fellowships, grants, even loans are available to you back home. I didn't personally end up securing a debt-free option from back home, but if you're curious, I recommend looking at your local US Embassy's website as a starting point, because I was surprised to find out that my local government had partnerships with the US Embassy to send citizens abroad to the US to study. Of course, it came with certain conditions, like you have to be studying a certain thing or earning a certain type of degree, but it's worth checking out because you never know what options are available to you until you've looked for them. But that's it for me today, guys. I hope that this video was useful for you in some way, especially if you're in the middle of that decision-making process. Like I said at the beginning, all of the advice in this video is based on personal experience from when I was applying to grad school. These are the things that I wish I had known more about or taken more advantage of this time last year. So I'm hoping that by passing on what I learned, I can help make your grad school process somewhat easier. But I'm just one person, so if there are any other ways to fund your graduate school education that I didn't talk about in this video, then please leave a comment below, especially if they pertain to international students. That's officially it from me, guys. If you liked what you saw today, then please give this video a quick thumbs up or leave a comment below. I really appreciate it either way. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, then please hit that subscribe button so that you can stay tuned for more videos like this. Remember, today's video may have been about practical advice, but I've got another video coming out this week. So stick around and I'll see you then. Thank you, guys.